Change how you see yourself to shift realities right now. In this very video, I'll tell you what stands in the way. What is the main challenge that everybody faces when it comes to changing our self-concept, changing our belief systems, changing how we see ourselves. And if you've clicked on this video, if you're here with me, this most likely means that you're currently, right now, at this very moment, going through a shift in your life. Maybe in your career, maybe in your romantic relationships, maybe in your friends circle and social circles in general, but you are passing through a shift. And for you to establish, to ground that shift in physical reality, your concept of yourself must change. So this is what I want to discuss today. What stands in the way of changing your self-concept? What do you think it is? And I'll speak from personal experience because I genuinely believe that our personal experience contains all the insights, all the value that we need to make the changes required in our life. So I have come to realize from my own personal experience that the inner child, this aspect of ourselves that is a lot of times really stubborn. My inner child, a lot of times it's really stubborn. It is a little bit naive. It accepts something as true simply because it has been shared um, with a strong enough state of mind without necessarily checking whether that's the truth or not. And this is a lot of times, or at least for me, how I have inherited some limiting belief systems. And a lot of times they're a little bit hard to change because of this inner child. The inner child, my inner child trusts me. Unless it trusts me, unless we are on the same page, it will always self-sabotage me and wouldn't persist through the shift that I'm trying to embody. And so the inner child must be on the same page, but a lot of times it is not. And I want to ask you now a simple question. What do you think stands in the way? What do you think makes the inner child so distrustful that it doesn't necessarily believe us in the change that we want to experience? For such a big portion of my life, I have totally neglected its feelings and I have abandoned its needs. And I have been people pleasing, I have been putting others and making them more important than myself, than my own well being. And so my inner child didn't trust me initially, and I needed to take the necessary steps to build that trust once again. And it's actually, this is still ongoing, this is currently happening. But if the inner child within us doesn't trust us, it is not possible to make a change, to make a shift in your self concept, in the way you see yourself, in your belief systems. So your inner child needs to be on the same page. And now you're probably asking the question, okay, Danny, this sounds curious, it's interesting, I understand the inner child needs to be on the same page, it needs to believe me, and we need to be working together to ground, to embody the shift that we are going through, but how does that truly happen? I hear you if you've asked that question. And it's really curious, because have you tried changing your belief systems through force? Have you tried changing yourself through self-criticism, trying to impose a new identity on yourself without first lovingly accepting who you have been? Most likely you have tried, and most likely you have failed. And it's only natural. How could one change oneself if one doesn't accept who he is? Does this make sense? How could you change yourself if you don't accept who you are? How could I change my self-concept if I don't accept how I see myself already? Do you now see why the inner child plays such a crucial role? The inner child, it's the complex of all of our feelings. It is that most innocent aspect of our consciousness that has already accepted certain truths, certain belief systems as true, and is not able to shift them unless you're first here to validate it. And this is where reparenting yourself comes in handy. You cannot change your self-concept unless your inner child agrees to, and your inner child won't ever be able to agree to the change that you want to make in your life unless you first validate its feelings. So how do you treat the inner child within you? If your inner child is all your feelings, this little stubborn inner child that once craves independence, always wants to be right, always tries to protect its position, is not always reasonable. When it gets triggered, it takes over your consciousness. It's like a pain body gets triggered, takes hold of your consciousness, and you're acting unconsciously. This is because of the inner child. It has certain models of behavior and coping strategies that it has learned to adapt so that it can pass through challenging situations in life. And unless you are able to convince your inner child through loving it, through accepting it, through validating its feelings, through acknowledging it for everything that it feels, unless you're able to do so, that inner child wouldn't trust you into the change that you're willing to make, that you're passing through right now. So it will work against you and it will self-sabotage. It will sabotage your best efforts. So your inner child plays a huge role in shifting how you perceive yourself. Because your reality can only shift once you truly shift how you perceive yourself. Once you truly change how you perceive yourself. And you can only change how you perceive yourself if your inner child agrees, if it's on the same page. And this can only happen if you treat your feelings, if you treat your inner child with self-love, self-acknowledgement, self-affirmation, validation, understanding, care, patience, almost like a loving mother. And this is where the practice of reparenting your inner child comes in practice. This is how you can take ownership of reparenting your inner child. If you treat it like the most loving mother you can imagine, or like the most wise and loving father that you can imagine, if you treat your inner child like that, it will trust you and believe in the changes that you're passing through, in the change of your self-concept, in the change of how you see yourself. So you can only work with your inner child if you love it. It's not possible to change something that you don't accept. So if you have been trying to fight yourself and it hasn't worked out, now you understand why. Now you understand that your attitude needs to shift. Instead of forcing yourself into the change you want to experience, you can love yourself into the change you want to experience. And this is how you can shift your identity, by working hand in hand, in cooperation with your inner child. So this was my main message for today, and I really hope that you enjoyed it. If that's the case, please let me know, like it, comment down below. Let me know what's your experience working with your inner child. Have you ever tried having a conversation with it? And did it trust you in that conversation? Were you able to shift the way it feels by just speaking to it like a loving parent? Because if you haven't, I challenge you. I want you to try, and I want you to see what's possible. Because once you shift the way you see yourself, your perception, you will experience reality shifting in front of your eyes. And it is worth it. Thank you so much for staying with me, and I'll see you around in the next video. Bye bye, enjoy your day.